Hello, you. You're listening to A History of Italy. Special interview episode, Learning Italian with Margherita from Italian Matters.
E non posso più accucciarmi e così ritorno su. Lascio i colli nelle valli tra due salici piangenti. Io ritrovo la speranza di un amore che ormai fu.
Well, I know that you, my dear listener, of course, are interested in Italy and Italian culture. But I also know that you may have been to Italy and that you may have been even to come and visit me and that you may be dying to learn the Italian language and perhaps have even come to do some courses. Well, fear not. The solution to your Italian language learning issues is finally here. We had a chat with Margherita from the Italian Matters Learning Project. It is a language school, both in person and online, and it has a whole series of other products and sources that you can look up. And Margherita is going to tell us all about it. She is a 100% bona fide Italian, but she's living in the good old US of A. We caught up with her for a chat about some suggestions for learning Italian, the usual do's and don'ts, and some of the sources that you can use. So, Margherita, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm great. A little bit tired, a little bit hot here in Italy. The season's starting, but apart from that, I'm doing fine. Margherita, you, as we were saying in the intro, you're an Italian, but you're living in the USA. So how is that? Is it a culture shock, or do you find you enjoy living in the US?
That's a great question. It has been a while now, so over 10 years. It's not a culture shock anymore, but it was at the beginning. Yes, it's very different, of course, from living in Italy. But I love the United States too, so I'm really enjoying my time here.
Great. Yeah. I lived there for 5 years and I loved every moment of it. I was a teenager, have some great memories, great friends. As you said, very different way of life. And so, okay, great. So, but we are going to talk about language learning. And in particular, we're going to talk about learning our beautiful mother tongue, Italian, l'italiano, the language of Dante, the language of Manzoni, the language of all those other boring people they make us study at school. But then when we come out of school, we go back and read them and we love them, except maybe Manzoni. Dante, yes. But anyway, I digress. So let's say, Margherita, I'm an absolute beginner. How should I start? Where's the starting point to try and get a hold of and master this great language?
Yes, if you are starting completely from zero with learning Italian, my recommendation would be to start with pronunciation. It is so important. This is something that we don't see very often at the beginning. We see many students, language learners, Italian learners focusing on grammar, but pronunciation is what I would recommend focusing on first, because you need to understand how the language sounds and how the letter combinations, they work together to then actually produce the language, to speak the language. So my recommendation is to start with pronunciation, Italian vowels, Italian consonants, and then those basic phrases and verbs that come up a lot in conversations. For example, essere, avere, to be, to have, the two most commonly used Italian verbs. I will focus on those things that come up a lot, and then of course pronunciation.
Okay, so I want to approach the language. Pronunciation is a starting point. How do I do that? What kind of sources do I have? And of course, feel more than free to mention your sources and all of your great materials and courses and so on.
Yeah, it depends on your budget, on what you can do. If you're starting from zero and you want to start without any cost, I remember I recommend an app, for example, using a language app can be good at the beginning, an app where you can repeat out loud, you hear phrases, you repeat out loud. Duolingo is good. at the beginning. Babel is good as well at the beginning. I recommend listening to Italian podcasts as well, so that you get that Italian input. And then for my courses, we have a course completely about pronunciation that you can use to really just focus on Italian pronunciation before you go into other topics. So it depends on what you want to do, your goals.
And what do you find, speaking of goals, what are most of the people that come to you to learn Italian, well, why do they want to learn Italian?
Yeah, most people want to learn Italian because they have Italian ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
They are traveling to Italy, and usually it is not just the first time. They've been to Italy once, they loved it, and now they want to go again, but they want to speak the language because it is a different experience when you go to Italy and when you know even just a little bit of Italian. It doesn't mean you need to be fluent, but knowing even grazie, ciao, prego, buongiorno, it makes a big difference with the experience that you get when you are in Italy. So
Yeah.
ancestors, traveling, and
Maybe they
then
want to buy a house in Tuscany and do it up and then become part of a rom-com in which they meet some Italian man of the local village and so on.
I was about to say also for partners, maybe an Italian boyfriend, girlfriend, trying to find someone. That is also another reason why.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. And we can say that if you are looking for a place in Tuscany, etc., it's getting very, very expensive. I'm in Emilia Romagna in particular. Our side of the Apennines is also very, very beautiful. So if you're looking to go over the mountains, you can come down our way. So great. So yeah, different reasons for learning, but different challenges and different drives. What about the most important do's and don'ts for learning Italian?
Yeah, what I've seen a lot as a language teacher is students who, again, focus so much on grammar, on vocabulary lists, but they do not speak the language. And so when I reflect on my own experience, for example, learning English, I remember learning English in middle school, elementary school, high school. We focus so much on grammar,
Yeah,
but
too much.
too much. Yes,
Yeah,
we didn't really speak English in the classroom.
at
It
all.
was about and words, but we didn't get to speak the language. And that is what I see with Italian learners as well. They know all the rules, they know all the vocabulary lists, and then when it's time to speak, they cannot put them together. And so that is a big issue, not speaking the language, just focusing on things that are helpful. But at the end of the day, the goal of learning a language, Italian, is to speak the language, to communicate.
Exactly. Yeah. I say that to
And
my students who are learning English sometimes that, language learning and language speaking is 20% grammar and rules and vocabulary and 80% attitude. Just go and talk and make mistakes and say silly things, but don't worry. Especially in Italy, we do so many silly things anyway. So you're never going to look any more silly than we do. So great. Okay. So that's the first thing. Okay. Try and speak the language. Don't focus too much on grammar. It's the same problem we have in Italy learning English. Our elementary school children know all the animals of the zoo that they will never see in their lives, but maybe they can't say, how are you, etc. Anything else we should or shouldn't do when learning Italian?
And with that, connecting with what you just said is not being afraid of making mistakes, because everyone makes mistakes. It is normal. It is part of learning. If you were not making any mistakes at all, probably you wouldn't be a beginner. You would be an advanced Italian learner. It is so normal, and so don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't stop yourself from using the language because you're so afraid of maybe saying something correctly. It is normal. It is part of a process. Everyone goes through that.
Okay. And any other things, some big no-nos or some things that we should definitely try and do?
Definitely get that language input. So I already mentioned podcasts. It is so important to listen to the language, especially if you don't travel to Italy so often, if maybe you spend most of your time in your home country and you are not quite connected to Italian speakers. I recommend getting language input with Italian podcasts, with Italian movies, put subtitles on.
In Italian?
Italian, yes, and then the audio in Italian. If you're a complete beginner, then the subtitles can be in your first language. But if you know a little bit, audio and subtitles in Italian as well.
Perhaps maybe also shorter videos where you can concentrate and you don't have to sit through a headache of a whole film in a foreign language.
It can be like a TV series. Maybe I'm
Hmm.
watching a 20-minute episode today, and maybe I
Hmm.
will watch the episode again tomorrow. Already seen all of it, and I already know what is happening. I'm going to listen to the language again.
Exactly. Or maybe a short video on a topic that you're interested in, gardening, space exploration, travel in Italian.
Yeah, on YouTube, there are a lot
Hmm.
of resources on that as well. Yes.
Great. And so when people do actually start working in with the language, learning the language, what are some of the most common mistakes that people make when learning Italian?
Yeah, so as I already said, common mistake is not speaking right away, just waiting maybe 3, 4, 5 months into language learning to speak the language. Don't wait that long. You can start even from day one to speak with what you know, just saying your name. Mi chiamo Margherita. I learned that today. I'm just going to say that out loud and saying that out loud, not just keeping the language in your brain. Another mistake is not using a variety of resources. So if you are just studying, for example, with a textbook, you are missing out. You should be listening to podcasts. You should be using flashcards. I always recommend flashcards. They're great for learning Italian. You should also put the words that you learn into context. Don't just memorize long vocabulary lists. Try to put them into context as they relate to your daily life. So I could say, mangio le uova, mangio le uova. I learned the verb mangiare. I'm going to use that in context, in a sentence, and it is about something that I do. So it is important to me. And let's see, another mistake is also keeping everything again inside to yourself instead of trying to connect with Italian learners. Again, if you don't travel to Italy often, that's okay. You can find many communities online to connect with other Italian learners and get them motivation and inspiration to continue learning Italian.
And then maybe if you're in a big city in the US, you can go looking for an Italian community there, an Italian cultural center or something like that.
Exactly. Universities usually have
Hmm.
some type of clubs or resources to connect with other Italian learners. Yes, no matter the age.
Okay, excellent. Well, we also know that one of the identifying characteristics of Italian are the gestures and body language. And so, how
Yeah.
much are they really important in Italian communication?
I think they are. I think I already moved my hands 20 times today
I'm
here.
actually holding my desk because my wife tells me when I do videos, she says, "You look too Italian." So I'm just trying to hold the desk at the moment before.
I think they're very important. You will see them when you travel in Italy. You will see Italian people using Italian gestures, and it is important to understand which gestures are not quite appropriate to use in certain contexts. So, for example, what comes to mind is this type of gestures.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
The what do you
cosa
want? Yeah.
vuoi?
Yeah.
Yeah, cosa
Or what do you
vuoi?
mean? What do you want? And just
Exactly.
for a
And
note, for those of us who do, for those of you who are also seeing the video, because we're going to release some video clips of this, so it's not up and down, but it's back and forth, the movement. So you see a lot of
exactly.
videos where people just sort of repeatedly going like this all the time. It's like this, and it means what do you want, or what are you saying, or I don't understand.
Exactly. And so we see this hand gesture or this one, I guess, a
Yeah.
lot online. And it
I think
is
they have
used
an emoji now of it as well.
there
Yeah.
is an emoji. There is. It's used in a funny way.
Yeah.
However, if I were in Italy and if I'm maybe speaking to a stranger, and if I did this, it wouldn't be very appropriate. It
No,
would
it
be
could be
rude.
quite rude.
Yes, and
Mm.
so it's important to understand what gestures in Italy have a certain meaning, how they are used, and when they are not appropriate, even though maybe outside of Italy they're used in a funny way, they are not in Italy. So you have to be careful with how
Yeah.
you move your hands. And
Yeah, and we
yes,
haven't mentioned because we're just talking about gestures, but we're not really thinking at the moment of those who aren't watching but are listening. So the gesture we're talking about is the one with sort of your three fingers, your index, middle, and thumb together in sort of a little bird hand kind of gesture, and it can have like you were saying, Margherita. It's usually not used in a polite or funny way, but it's sort of it can be quite aggressive. Since what are you talking about? You're saying something stupid kind of thing. So.
yeah,
Mm.
exactly. And so
Okay.
understanding the gestures can be helpful before you travel there to make sure that you don't make this type of cultural mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think also the tone sometimes can mislead foreigners because I've had English family or friends come to Italy and, I've had a conversation with maybe a server or somebody like that, and they sort of look at me in slight shock. And then when the person goes away, say, well, what are you arguing about? And I said, well, we weren't. We were just having a very normal conversation. So the tone can
Right.
make a difference. Okay.
Yeah,
Do
the
do you
tone is
have
also.
any, Margherita, any favorite gestures that you like that we can explain maybe that you use a lot, maybe in the family or?
There is one. It is a bit old school, I think. So just this gesture.
Okay, so basically your index finger on your cheek, sort of in a
Yeah.
circulatory motion, meaning it's very very good. It's yummy.
It's very good. And I don't think it's known very much outside of Italy.
Mm,
And I know it's mostly used with kids, but
yeah,
it's a fun gesture that I like. Yes.
yeah. Excellent. Okay, yeah. So gesturing is stereotypically a part of Italian communication, but a lot of the stereotype is actually true. We can possibly have a whole conversation without actually uttering any words. So. Okay, so we've been talking, Margherita, a lot about beginners approaching the language.
Yeah.
Now, some of the History of Italy podcast listeners, a couple of actually, and I'll take the opportunity to say hello, Sen, who came to study actually in the city where I live. Lisa Kay came to study, and they know a little bit of Italian. So, what sort of advice could you give for somebody who's not an absolute beginner?
Yeah, if you're not an absolute beginner, so you have some sort of foundation of Italian language, my recommendation is to really start focusing on all language skills. So if I am more of a A2 or B1 level, I'm going to focus more on understanding that fast-paced Italian. So I'm going to select a podcast that is made for native Italian speakers, and I will listen to that to better develop my Italian ear. And then, as far as speaking as well, I'm going to use more the language in a refined way. So instead of just saying io mangio le uova, I'm going to add something else there. Stamattina io mangio le uova con il pane. I'm going to refine more my language. I'm going to add more information as I speak, using what I know, using my Italian foundation. And then my recommendation is always to focus on the three most important Italian tenses. So maybe you know the present tense, you are a little bit beyond that beginner level. Now you can better focus more on the passato prossimo, the present perfect, on the imperfetto, the futuro, the imperfect, the future. So refine your skills with other tenses as well, not just the present. I'm going to focus on the other tenses as well.
Okay, yeah. So then when things start to become a little bit more complicated, because Italian
Right.
tenses are a little bit more complicated than English ones. But that's definitely a step in the right direction. Do you find there in the US, for example, are there more people approaching the study of Italian? Are people more interested in studying the language?
Yeah, I've seen that. I think many people in the US have this dream, which I love, of moving to Italy, of being there and maybe retiring in Italy, or being a digital nomad and travel through Italy. And so they understand that it is not just about being in Italy; it is about knowing the language, speaking the language to get that full experience. And so I've seen a lot of people who are engaging with the language and trying to learn before they make the move. Because if you move without knowing any Italian, yes, you can do it, but
Yeah,
it's going
yeah,
to
yeah.
be
It's going to be
quite
hard.
messy,
Yeah.
quite messy compared to preparing beforehand before you travel there.
Yeah, there are also organizations that help with that. And it's interesting, Margherita, you mentioned the digital nomad visa, because that's
Yeah,
something that has been developing in the Italian news as well. The fact that you can come and it's been more difficult with the current government. They're trying to sort of crack down a little bit on immigration, but it's still possible to do that. And indeed, some of the organizations that I'm in contact with who deal with helping people come to Italy, deal with their citizenship, helping move. They've seen a lot of work, especially since the 2024 election, that their work has increased
yeah,
quite a bit. And so that's a very interesting development. There's a lot of people who want to be learning
yeah,
Italian.
yeah.
But Margherita, 2026 is a big year, okay? Because you've created in a very short time this wonderful project. It's grown almost exponentially. You've been very, very successful. Obviously, it helps that you have this like nice, friendly approach, this fun approach makes a big difference. And so this year is the year in which your book is coming out. So please tell us something about your book.
And yes, I'm very, very excited. We speak the word Italian, history and culture through language is my book. It is coming out on August 11th. And it is about learning the 200 words and phrases that Italian speakers use every day. And it is not just about a phrase or a word. It is about understanding where that phrase, where that word comes from, and how Italian speakers use that phrase or word in their daily life. So, for example, why do we say in bocca al lupo, in the mouth of a wolf, to wish good luck? What is the meaning behind that? Why do we do that in Italian? It doesn't make any sense in English.
But that's actually a very interesting example, Margherita, because also people have two schools of thought about the answer. Because some people will, to wish you good luck, say in bocca al lupo, which means literally in the mouth of the wolf. And very often people will say, crepi lupo, may the wolf die. But other people instead say viva il lupo, so long live the wolf. Can you tell us something about that? Or
there are different ideas about how we should respond to that. But one idea was that when people went out in the past to hunt, then they would encounter wolves. And so we would say, crepi lupo, may the wolf die, so that you don't die because you're out hunting.
Yeah, you're not eaten by the wolf. Yeah.
That was the response.
Yeah.
But I think with these idea that we have of protecting animals, which I understand, and being nicer as humans, we change these from crepi to viva to viva.
Exactly. And also it's because then it's an easy change, because the idea there being is in the mouth of the wolf means that you're protected, because the mother wolf usually picks up her cubs with her mouth, and so being in the mouth of the wolves is good luck because the wolf protects you. And of course we know that the wolf is the symbol of Rome, Romulus and Remus being being fed by the she wolf, and so on. So we're going to say, we Margherita, if you agree, we'll say viva il lupo rather than crepi lupo. We don't want to a wolf which is coming back also, which has come back to our mountains, our Apennines, in the sort of central Apennines of Italy, has come back. And so great. Okay. So the book, 11th of August. Okay. Where can we get the book, Margherita? And also tell us about the other sources, your website, where can we find your courses and so on?
So you can pre-order the book on Amazon, for example, on Target if you are in the United States, on various sites, Barnes and Nobles as well if you are in the US. But if you are outside of the US, Amazon is probably the best website where you can find the book. And then it comes out on August 11th, but we have some bonuses that you can get if you pre-order the book before it comes out, so that you get a bigger, fuller experience with the book, with understanding pronunciation. As I mentioned, it is important. So we have a course about pronunciation that you can get if you purchase the book before it comes out, and also a mindset course as well to understand how to learn Italian from a mindset point of view. And then as far as my courses, yes, I have online Italian courses and we run them twice a year. So the next round is going to start in September. And we announce all the dates on my website,
which is
italianmatters.com.
italianmatters.com. Okay,
exactly.
Excellent.
So you can find all the information there.
Wonderful. And also we can follow you on the socials from the site. We can find you.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the same name. So on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, you can find me at Italian Matters. And usually I post daily lessons. So if you want bite-sized lessons of Italian, you can find them on social media.
Fantastic. Margherita, have we forgotten something? Do we have any parting suggestions, recommendations?
Yeah, let's see. A recommendation I have, if your dream is to learn Italian and you haven't started yet because maybe you feel a little bit afraid, it is to just do it. You have one life. This is your dream. Just do it. Try to learn the language. Take it lightly. It doesn't have to be this big mountain that you have to get to the top and it's so difficult. It doesn't have to be that way. It can be fun learning a language, and you need to start. That is the first step. If you don't start, you will never know how it is to speak Italian.
The saying goes, even a 1,000-mile journey starts with the first step. So.
Exactly.
Excellent. Great. So Margherita Berti, thank you very much. Let's remind the listeners again the title of the book.
Yes, Speak the World, Italian, History and Culture Through Language.
Fantastic. And that's out on the 11th of August. But if you pre-order, you get some extra special goodies. So Margherita, grazie mille. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us and helping us with our Italian. So listeners, we expect to be fluent next year and come and see us here in Italy.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, I hope you found that chat with Margherita useful. Of course, once again, you can look her up at italianmatters.com. And if you want to get in touch with us, as always, hello@historyofitaly.com, or look us up on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And write in and let us know. Have you tried learning Italian? Have you been to Italy to do a course? What is your language learning status? We look forward to hearing from you wherever you would like to get in touch. And until next time, arrivederci.